Okay, everybody, I am here in a dark room all by myself. Welcome. Come on in. The water's fine and the chairs are creaky. I am chilling. I couldn't find another time to film anything today because I've been very busy with things I can't talk about. Wink, wink. I'm bad at winking. But, better late than never, I suppose. So I'm here and I want to chat about things. Specifically, I want to talk about something that was sent to me in a DM on Twitter. It was just a simple question, but it was somebody effectively asking, what do I think Xbox is going to do and what they should do when it comes to exclusivity for, specifically, they brought up Elder Scrolls 6, but I think it also applies to other games moving forward, just generally, as we look at the rest of their portfolio for the next handful of years. Like, what are they going to do? And I appreciated that this individual broke it down. I believe their name was Gary. I appreciate that Gary broke this down into what they should do and what I think they're going to do, because I think that that's often an important distinction. There's what I think they should, what I maybe want them to do, and what they probably are going to do, which is kind of the three ultimate ways to go. Number one, if I was the God King of gaming, I would put everything everywhere because I think exclusivity is kind of lame. I'm a PC gamer. I think games run best on PC. The more open the platform is, the better it is, better competition is, the better prices and protections consumers have. So I think being everywhere is my ideal. So if I was God King of gaming, I would wave my mighty Dorito wand and I would dictate that would be so. So should be, or whatever wizards say. So that's what I would do, what I would want, right? Then there's the question of what I think Asha should do versus what I think Asha is going to do. And I think the most interesting piece of this is probably the Elder Scrolls 6. And don't worry, I'll have Jacob put up some B-roll gameplay while we go through this so you're not just staring at my face the whole time. I think that there's an interesting problem that Xbox has because, for one, it's pretty clear what the problem is. It's that their hardware has not converted at all. So they have pretty much been completely incapable of getting people to buy into the Xbox platform. Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer's solution to that was literally to make everything an Xbox, which therefore means Xbox is growing, right? Like if your phone becomes an Xbox, guess what? We just got another Xbox. Oh, your TV, it's an Xbox. Wow, we just got another one. Like that really was their approach. Sorry, this chair is amazingly squeaky. That really was their approach, and it's baffling, but that's truly what they were doing. And it also clearly and demonstrably didn't work. And so that leads us to, we know the problem. The problem is they haven't gotten consoles, and the reason that's a problem is because if you don't have consoles, if you don't have a platform for people to go to and engage with your content, it's really hard to sell things. It just is. Because if there's not a central hub for that, there's no reason for people to come to your platform and to engage with your services, which would be things like Game Pass, would be things like Xbox Live, the money makers basically, that offer recurrent revenue that comes in and actually pays the bills. So Asha and the rest of the Xbox executive suite that has followed her since the departure of Phil, they have clearly identified that the struggles of Xbox hardware and the console itself has been a major problem for them, and therefore it's one that they want to fix. The question then becomes, can you fix it, and if so, how? If the answer is no, you can't fix it, none of this really matters. If you cannot fix Xbox and gain market share and grow, blah, 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 if you can't do that, it doesn't matter whether you make Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive, it doesn't matter if it's cross-platform everywhere, it doesn't matter, the brand is dying, and at that point you're just a publisher. So I think at that point it's going to go everywhere, and it's kind of beside the point. So I think we should operate under the assumption that it is possible to fix it. Not go all defeatist about it, but to say, I think that this is possible. I think you could potentially fix it. Sorry, I'm just moving you a little bit so you're not sitting on the cable. I'm trying to be considerate. But I think that if we operate under that assumption that it is fixable, then where does that lead us? If it's fixable, I think the only way that you can fix it is by acquiring market share. And the only way you're going to get people to buy a next-gen gaming console is if there's a reason to buy it. I know that sounds like a truism, and that's because it is. It is what it is. You'll only buy it if there's a reason to buy it. That's true. But it's something that Xbox has seemingly completely forgotten about in the last like 5 years. If there's no reason to own a certain piece of hardware, why would you buy it? If all of the games you could get on the Xbox are available on the PlayStation, why wouldn't you just buy the PlayStation? If it also has all these other games that you can't get on the Xbox, well, maybe it's more affordable. It's not. The Xbox is just as expensive or more. Maybe if you like the controller, that's personal preference. Yeah, maybe some people like the Xbox controller more than the PlayStation one, but people also like the haptic triggers and haptic feedback on the DualSense that you don't get on the Xbox controller. So maybe there's that. So preference, could dictate it either way, but there's also plenty of things that are pointing people in the direction of PlayStation when it comes to that preference, right? And when you start to break it down, you just start to end up in a situation where there's very little reason, as far as anybody can tell, to engage with the Xbox platform. And that's what happened when Sarah Bond and Phil started pushing this narrative of everything is an Xbox, where they would have advertisements where they show like, a TV, this is an Xbox, a laptop, that's an Xbox, a cell phone, that's an Xbox, because it was no longer about the hardware. And we saw the numbers. I mean, it was pretty clear. The hardware sales were, plummeting is almost generous. Like, it was a laser beam straight down to the center of the earth. It was shocking how much they just nosedived straight the moment that they kind of gave up on the platform and tried to go this more generic route. So I think the only way you can get people to buy your console is if there's a really compelling thing that differentiates it. That could be cost. Like, let's say hypothetically the PlayStation 6 is $1,200. The Xbox Helix, whatever, let's say is $699. That's a reason. That's a reason to buy it. If it can play all the AAA games and all the cross-platform games that are on PlayStation 6 and Helix and PC, that all of a sudden becomes compelling, especially in the modern marketplace. I mean, if you can get a powerful console for $699, $700, and the competition is $500 more, that could be a reason. Now, if it's like $1,200 versus $1,100, maybe that matters to some people. It's still over $1,000. If you're at like $999 versus $1,200, maybe that makes a difference. But I think if the gap is big, it could really, really change things and give Xbox momentum. That's unlikely to happen though, because again, Xbox is at a disadvantage when it comes to hardware because they don't manufacture many units, because they're not selling any. It would be one thing if they wanted to manufacture 50 million. I don't think they want to, because I don't think they're going to sell even close to 50 million in the entire next generation. So they are at a disadvantage when it comes to hardware manufacturing costs and all that. So I don't think the cost thing is going to be a deciding factor for them. I know some people will go, well, Luke, they're owned by Microsoft. Microsoft is worth $4 trillion or whatever. They can eat the cost. True, but the reason they're $4 trillion as a company, the reason their market cap is $4 trillion is because they don't do things like that. Because they don't subsidize their products to the extent of like 40, 50, 60%. Like they just don't do that. And that's why they're worth what they're worth. So for that to happen, Microsoft would have to stop operating like Microsoft, which I don't think they're going to do. Should they? Maybe. I think it would give them a chance at recovering Xbox much faster if they came out swinging with a console priced unbelievably aggressively. But let's also just be realistic. I think if they were to do that, unfortunately, all of those consoles would be bought up by scalpers and they would be selling and trading for $3,000 a pop anyways, which sucks, but let's just be honest, they're not going to manufacture many of them. And I think if it's a really good deal, it's going to get scalped anyways. It sucks, but I think that's just what would happen. So it wouldn't be like some magical fix for everything. So if it can't be cost, if you can't magically make the hardware way cheaper than the competition's, what other lever can you pull? What other dial can you turn? Well, you have things like content. You have things like the experiences available on that product. You also have things like features and power, but that's also kind of tricky because if your Xbox Helix is twice as powerful as the competition, it's probably also more expensive. But that also creates a disparity between the developers and optimizing for the consoles and all of that. So it's not that simple. Main limitation being cost. Most of these companies or both of these companies are targeting a similar price range. So the products are probably going to end up being fairly close in terms of power. Now, having said that, if you can't turn the like hardware dial really to differentiate it, and if we're assuming that there's no like crazy groundbreaking technology, like, you know, something insane that makes the Xbox Helix totally different and worth buying. Because again, reminder, we're trying to find a reason to buy it. That's all we're trying to do. If it can't be cheaper, that's not a reason. If like the hardware can't be really differentiated because it would make it too expensive, that's again not a reason. You're trying to find a reason to buy the Xbox. What is like one of the last levers to pull? It's the games. And the only way you can pull that lever, I think, that makes a difference for giving people a reason to buy your console is exclusives. Again, if I was the God King of gaming, I'd be like, sucks to suck. No, put it everywhere. But at the very least, exclusive to Xbox still allows for a PC port because it's console exclusive. So, you know, we still win. Either way, we're like, PC gamers will still be okay. But having said that, like, I think that that's really the only tool in Asha's toolbox. I mean, if there's another one, I would love to know about it. I'm sure she would too. I don't know what else they can do to give you a reason to buy an Xbox other than like vibes. I mean, I know some people are like, well, if they just make the next Xbox look really cool, people will buy it. It might go viral on Instagram if it's got like a really cool design, if it's got the transparent plastic. Yeah, that's cool. But I think most people are probably not buying their consoles exclusively for the color and sheen of the plastic. Like, most people buy it for the games they're going to play on it, because for most people it's going to go onto the shelf under the media center, under the TV, and that's where it's going to sit for the next 6 years, right? I almost said the thing, and I intentionally didn't. I think that it's really the only lever that she can pull. What else do you do? What else is she supposed to do? So if we assume that she can save Xbox and that you can rebuild this, and we conclude that the only way you're going to do it is by building out the console space and building the platform and building a fan base, and then you say, okay, well, to do that, we need to give players a reason to buy the console. The only way you can really make a compelling reason to buy the console, I think, is with exclusive content. Now, Xbox has a massive suite of studios and a ton of games that are coming out regularly, some of which are big cross-platform monstrosities like Call of Duty, Minecraft, for example, massive moneymakers. Others are smaller experiences that, you know, represent less of a risk. And I think this is the tricky thing for Xbox at the moment, which is just simply deciding, where is that line drawn? What is going to be exclusive and what is going to be cross-platform? What is, like, what are we defining as Xbox Studios just for Xbox? Like, you know, what is that going to be? For me, I personally think, and this is where we get into the nuance of what I think Asha should do versus will do. She, I think, I don't think she can afford to make like Call of Duty, for example, exclusive to Xbox and PC. It makes way too much money on PlayStation, and that money largely funds Xbox as a platform. I don't think they'll ever take that and remove it from PlayStation. There's also a pretty good chance that there'd be lawsuits involved from PlayStation if they were to do that, because remember, PlayStation's making 30% of all that money anyways, taking their cut. So they're happy. And a lot of people have PlayStation Plus memberships to play Call of Duty. So Call of Duty even represents an incentive to buy their online membership, which is fascinating that Xbox is actually selling probably more PlayStation Plus network like account upgrades than any game out there, other than maybe like FC, which is wild, but that's just how it is. So I don't think they'd be able to make something like that exclusive. Same with like Minecraft. I don't think they'd be able to do anything with those big ones. But when it comes to like the single player narrative stuff, that's where they have some wiggle room. And that's what they've communicated, where they've said the stuff that's already been announced as cross-platform, like Fable, for example, that's going to go everywhere. But other games like Clockwork Revolution, they can make exclusive. And it's going to be really interesting to see in the next like year how they start to break this up. I think actually PlayStation, funnily enough, has games that are cross-platform. They're all multiplayer live service games because we need just more players. So Marathon goes everywhere, but like the next God of War stays on PlayStation. And in the Xbox case, that would mean that their single player games like Elder Scrolls 6, that would be exclusive to the console and to PC, and then live service stuff would go everywhere. But that again is another point where that represents a sacrifice, and I think this is for them the tricky bit. There is no getting away from this. Like, you are going to lose money, frankly, no matter which way you go. You're going to lose money if you have no exclusives and people have no reason to buy your console, because they're not going to buy your console. And your console's going to continue to hemorrhage users, and it's just going to slowly die out and bleed out, really. If you make Elder Scrolls 6 exclusive, you're giving up God knows how many millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe not hundreds, well, maybe hundreds, but you're giving up a lot of money, at the very least tens upon tens upon tens of millions of dollars on potential day one PlayStation sales that you would have gotten. Not a question of if, like, you would have gotten that if your game was available on PlayStation. But the hope is it's really kind of a cost to acquire customers. That's what you're doing. Like, you're losing that money in exchange for giving that person that skipped Elder Scrolls 6 a reason to pick up an Xbox when they're in the store next time. That's the goal. The wrinkle on top of all of this, though, that kind of makes the whole discussion potentially pointless, which is why I saved it for the very, very end, is the question of whether or not Xbox can even manufacture enough consoles to begin with. Because if they can't, what's the point of any of this, right? Like, if they can't make enough Xboxes to sell people, what's the point? What's the point? Asha has actually indicated that right now Xbox can't manufacture enough consoles to meet demand. And I don't know if you noticed, demand ain't that high for Xboxes. So if they can't manufacture enough right now, woof. Like, if they're in this weird spot where if they find success and if they start, I swear it was the chair, if they start to recover and start to reinstitute and regain footing with their own audience, and they get people to actually want to buy an Xbox again, they may not have any to sell them. And the only way they could is if they were to either have like refurbished ones or to do deals for massive manufacturing, probably at higher costs, losing more money or potentially having to charge more. Like, they are really in a bad spot, because if that is to be believed, if what Asha said is true, which is that they cannot meet demand right now, it becomes real tricky. It becomes real tricky, because what are you to do? All of the stuff we've talked about, this whole segment, chunk, whatever, video, this whole time has been based on the premise that we want to build out the console space. We want to build out the user base, the fan base, et cetera, et cetera. That's the goal. But if you are breaking that fundamental, like, premise, which is that, well, because we'll have consoles to sell them, something we just took for granted at the start of this whole conversation, everything falls apart. If that goes through, everything falls apart. And unfortunately for them, it looks like that may actually be way more shaky than previously thought, which is crazy, but that's just where we are with the memory shortage and the crisis going on. So, long story short, given all of that information and given what I think in an ideal world, if they can manufacture consoles and all this, they have to have exclusives, and I think you gotta have big stuff exclusive. You got to go swinging like Sony does with massive investments in single player. Maybe they don't make as much money as they would have if you put it everywhere, sure. But like if they launched God of War Lao Fei, or if they launched the God of War trilogy remakes, or if they launched Intergalactic Heretic Prophet, if they launched those games on PC day one, they would make a lot more money. Like, they would make tens of millions of dollars extra, if not hundreds of millions of dollars extra. But they're giving that up in exchange for the health of the ecosystem and the console space. They get it, and they can afford that sacrifice because they think it's worth it. But again, for Xbox, none of this matters if they don't have the ability to have a console to sell people, which it seems like they may not. So when we go back to the question that started all of this, which was just simply, what do I think they'll do versus what I think they should do? I've outlined what I think they should do, what I would want them to do. But what do I think they're going to do? I think they are going to try desperately to tread water. They're just going to try to survive until the hardware stabilizes. And just earlier tonight, or today, whatever, again, time zones are weird, Hiroki Totoki, the CEO of Sony, was saying that they are weighing their options when it comes to release timing for PlayStation 6. They are considering maybe waiting a little bit, maybe delaying this, delaying that, moving this over here. Like they're considering wiggling around the schedule, potentially putting the PlayStation 6 out in 2028 instead of late 2027, which would be very, very interesting. Because again, this all becomes much easier for Xbox and PlayStation, sure, if you can get to 2028 for the next gen launch for all of these big games. And then, and only then, at that point, once prices have stabilized and come down potentially for hardware manufacturing, at that point, they can be more aggressive because, again, that presupposition, which is that you'll have something to sell people, will be fulfilled. You will have consoles to sell people. You will have the ability to sell your console maybe more aggressively priced. And there's other things we don't know about. Maybe like AI spending is slowing down, and so Satya is looking for other places in the business to make investments, and he sees over there, hey, our gaming division is actually showing signs of growth. Let's subsidize the console a bit. Pay an extra $200 off of the sale price to just get users in, right? I think all of that is on the table if you can make it to 2028. So I think things are going to be relatively quiet, I think, and very non-committal until 2028. I think next year is going to be probably pretty frustrating for a lot of fans because I think that there's maybe going to be some teasers of like Project Helix and some teasers of stuff here and there, but I think that they really are not going to be specific if they can help it because they just don't know at this point. It's going to be frustrating, but I think that they don't have much of a choice when you look at the broader picture. But that's just my thoughts, rambling in a hotel room at midnight. So do with that what you will. I'm going to call it there, though. My voice is getting tired. My face is tired from talking. I'm going to give it a break there. I miss you guys desperately. I'm going to be back soon. At this point, technically tomorrow I head back. So I can't wait. It's been an amazing trip. I brought the family to Europe for Nikki's birthday, and we had an amazing time. Did FanFest. Did a lot of other work things that I can't talk about just yet, towards the end of the trip. But it's been amazing. It's been great. But I'm ready to get home. I miss streaming. I miss hanging out with you guys. And I want to get back into the regular swing of things. And we shall. Anyway, thank you for watching. I love you all desperately. I will see you in the next video. Hugs and kisses. Bye-bye.
He took my thing.